I'm Michael Polozola with the LSU Ag Center, and I want to provide you with an update on the strawberry trials we're doing. We started in 2020, and we've been able to expand greatly in 2021 with support from the LSU Ag Center and the Southern Region Small Fruit Consortium. So we started screening a bunch of varieties in 2020, and in 2021 I was able to select really promising ones from that and replicate them both here and in some other structures we're going to look at later. And with the additional support, I was also to expand to look at some that have ornamental potential, as well that have some other novelties like having white fruit and unique flavors. Okay, now I want to go into some of my top ones from my initial screening that we've moved up into replication. This one here is called Dubois. It's a French origin selection. It has very intense flavor for some people and has a lot of fragrance to it that adds to that nice flavor. And nicely enough for our area, it's very disease tolerant, gets very little leaf spot, and very heat tolerant. So it's a good selection for a home garden. The fruit, this is not as typical. This is a very lovely, nice sized one, but your average sized fruit is probably going to be about this size here. A great selection for the home garden that has great flavor that you won't really find in the grocery store. Now we're going to move over here to look at another very promising selection. Even though I've just started screening this one this year, I believe it's going to be very promising and perform well in our area. This year's been very wet and it's been a great year to screen for disease, that's for certain. And this one's been very vigorous with our ups and downs in 2021. It makes beautiful large berries. Its name is Eclair, and makes very large fruit, very vigorous. And I'm hoping that I still am recommending it to you next year if it makes it through our hot summer heat here. That's the only thing I haven't trialed it through, but other than that, it has great vigor, great fruiting potential, and great flavor, which can sometimes be hard to find in a large fruit like this. Sometimes that large fruit comes at the expense of flavor, but this one has very rewarding flavor potential. You do have to let it go all the way ripe before you want to harvest it. So this one I would probably leave just one more day until it's nice and more deep red for me to eat and enjoy that. But a very promising cultivar that we will continue screening and multiplying throughout our area. And here we have Seascape. It's one that is been grown a little bit longer. I have had it for one more year longer than this, and I've grew it personally even before that. Nice disease tolerance, don't have much problem with leaf spot. Every now and then you may get one. Fruit is a bit on the tart side, but if you let it get very ripe, it's very rewarding, very rich combination of that sweet and tart together, and also has exhibited great heat tolerance, has performed very well in our area. You can see here where it's starting to put some runners. Some of these varieties do that, and as long as you're trying to push for fruit production, you are going to want to continue removing runners like this until you're wanting to specifically multiply your plant material. Then you can let them produce runners so that you can multiply and start new strawberry beds. Okay, this is another cultivar that performed really well last year called Purple Wonder. With LSU, of course, we had to trial a strawberry that has the potential to be purple. So now we'll say early in the season it tends to have more of this red-like fruit. But as the season progresses later, the fruit turns more of a purplish color, and it really is a delightful flavor profile. That buildup of purple is anthocyanins, which has a more complex sweet flavor compound. Now the only thing I will warn, it is a little sensitive to leaf spot. This is a leaf from a plant I have in a separate pot, but it tolerates it fairly well. So it can recover from this and still make nice fruit for you. You may just want to, if it gets to be too serious, remove these leaves. It may require a fungicide application every now and then if it gets to be a little too serious, but Purple Wonder is definitely one to consider adding to your collection. It can be a little bit on the expensive side, so you're not probably going to plant a whole row of it, but if you get some and get it started, I think it's one you'll really enjoy. Okay, this is another selection I've replicated this year. It was on the borderline. It can be sensitive to leaf spot, but this fruit here, this large fruit and very, very flavorful fruit in this cultivar called Albion, has made it worthwhile enough for me that I've decided to replicate it. The other thing that counts against it for some people, but could be a boon for others, is it has a tendency to stay small. It doesn't get as large and as vigorous as some of the other plants. This means that it may actually long-term be better suited for a structure like this. It won't outgrow the structure, but if you're wanting to plant some out in the field, it may not. You may want to go with one of the more vigorous selections. But Albion has great flavor. It has very good heat tolerance in the middle of the summer. It is a little bit sensitive to leaf spot, but not to the point where it defoliates it. You can control it just by removing the leaves if it becomes unsightly or spreading too much. But it's a lovely plant that stays nice and compact, at least in my trials here, and makes large size fruit. I will say it sometimes takes 2 years for it to make this large size fruit, so don't be disappointed if for your first year you're not getting typical fruit on strawberries. That I found that to be something across the whole trial, that the fruit the second year tends to be a higher quality, sweeter and larger. So thankfully I've been able to expand this trial to look at other strawberries of unique interest. And these in particular are ones that have colored flowers and are selected for that ornamental potential. And I think they would have great use in the landscape as a ground cover, with an upside in the fact that it still makes fruit, and thankfully good tasting fruit still for it as well. So they continue flowering into the season in waves, and you should be able to enjoy flowers throughout our spring and summer and even fall in the resulting fruit. So here we are now looking at 3 new cultivars that I added to the screening process this year. So this one here has not established well. The plants have stayed small. I've had to replace plants several times. It's suffering from leaf spot and has low vigor. So far this would be one we would probably reject and not recommend for homeowners. I'm going to try to carry it through 1 more year to see if it can redeem itself, but with its low vigor, low fruit production, and not very outstanding fruit, more than likely one we will not recommend. Now moving over here, this is kind of an intermediate right now. Plants have great vigor, it's having a little bit of leaf spot. The fruit it has made have tasted excellent. Now it does have this bit of an oddity where the fruit exhibit vivifery every now and then. And that is a situation where the seeds on the strawberries start to germinate and you get little strawberry plants starting, and it'll do this even before the fruit ripens. So it's an oddity that if it happens at an increased frequency, may not recommend it for your average home gardener, but the taste and vigor are good so far. And here's a different cultivar where nice vigorous plants, great fruiting the first year. Only hesitation is the fruit is a bit tart, but if you let it ripen all the way, it gets very sweet. And the larger the plants get, the sweeter the fruit gets. So this is one that so far, if it makes it through the heat of the summer, which is another important part of the screening process that these are waiting to go through, that we may bring up to higher replication and send to other locations. Now the reason we do this, and we have different locations across the state, is so that we can grow them and find out if they do well, so that you don't have to go through this evaluation process yourself. So we go through the legwork and determine, yes, hopefully this one will be successful in your location, so you don't end up with a disappointing plant to start that might kill your gardening mood from the get-go.